Welcome to the Possibility Paradigm podcast, where we have conversations that are at the intersection of possibility, consciousness, actual experience, and energetic intelligence. The possibility paradigm are actually more than conversations. They're experiences that can change your tomorrows. Let's jump into today's episode. Welcome, everybody, to the Possibility Paradigm podcast. I'm Grace Ambrook, and on the Possibility podcast, we talk about and we have conversations that are at the intersection of possibility, consciousness, experience, and heart intelligence. And so today I'm very excited about being joined by Ryan Hartley, who is the UK's leading heart-centered leadership coach. And I love the term, the Chief Heart Officer of Always Better Than Yesterday, which is a company which develops heart-centered leaders through coaching, consulting, community building, and podcasting. So Ryan's welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's an absolute pleasure. And so when we first connected, there was, I think, an instantaneous recognition of the value and the place of heart-centeredness. And I was very drawn to speaking with you for a number of reasons, but one of them also very much so with a lot of my clients are females. And one of the things that was so refreshing for me was the thought of a masculine energy representing the heart-centered focus. And that really spoke to me because there's less of it in the world.
Yeah.
And I love to hear the masculine expression of heart-centeredness. And so one of my intentions and one of the possibilities that I'd like to explore with you in this conversation is touching that space and what it is to be the man who is representing the heart-centered leadership model in this world. And so much gratitude for you for that. So I've got a bit of a question. How did the heart-centeredness, how did that happen first off? And then I want to ask you another question as well. But I mean, I've got lots of questions, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm slightly laughing because I'm not going to roll out the hey, here's the finished article, here's the perfect path to becoming this heart center. It's messy, right? And I guess to pre-frame it, I'll take you to the real context. So I'm 38. I live in the southwest of England. I was raised in a single parent family, and I've been with my childhood sweetheart since I was 15. So we've been together some 23 years now, and my wife has had to suffer me man and boy. I was this wonderful cheeky chappy that grew up that always had this belief in himself. It almost like a ignorance kind of like, oh, I'll just figure it out. I can do anything. I'll figure it out. So I ended up having quite a lot of success in my earlier years, going off to university. I fell in love with this topic of psychology. I really wanted to understand why people did what they do. I'm fascinated with people, and then I turned that attention to why do naughty people do naughty things, because I was interested in criminology and policing. So I went to the UK Police Service and I did 15 years as a civilian, as a 999 call handler, in a variety of different roles. As I grew in my leadership, I was afforded more coaches, more courses, and coaching came along, and I found the work of Simon Sinek, and he was encouraging people to find their why. And it was at that time that started this journey for me. Really, it was at the time when I became a father for the first time and a manager for the first time. It really sent me on a journey of understanding what was it that connected all the areas of my life. Why do I do what I do? What was I really passionate about? And I got clear that it was very simple back then. As I just love helping make things better for people more specifically. And then this technology called coaching kind of came along, and The police were using me to coach people that were a problem or they wanted promotion. And if you've been around coaching, you know that it's actually possibility that inspires me too. It's just why we're so like-hearted, right? I'm really inspired by the possibilities that coaching can create for people.
Okay.
And so I just spent a bit more time doing that for free in
Mhm.
my own time. My wife was doing a network marketing business. She was selling kind of mascara and stuff, and she was doing amazing things. And so I started coaching her team, about 200 people for free, and I built up this little community 7 or 8 years ago. And that kind of gave me confidence to know that this stuff works.
Mm.
And I was in the early days talking about leadership, really understanding that leadership was this master key to leaving people better. But I was a little bit different at the time, talking about leading with love. I really believe that love was the life force energy that was creating these transformations in and around people. I didn't really have the words for it at the time, and this has just sent me on a journey, right? I'm just getting you back to the very beginning.
Mm.
But here's the thing. Once you start that journey of self-discovery, things get revealed, right? So I can now sit here and reflect to
Mm.
you that I lead from love, not for love. But let me tell you, that young Ryan Hartley, he grew up leading for love. So there was a lot of love imbued in everything I did. But that young man, bless him, love him, got me where I am. He went into the world seeking the love he believed he did not have.
Yes.
And that's where I'll kind of leave that first in that section is I was led to believe through my upbringing for a variety of different things, the stories that I told myself that I was unloved, that I was abandoned, and I took that to the world. I interviewed Dr. Gary Chapman, the author of The Five Love Languages, and there's a quote on the very last page that haunts me. It's for all the love we do not receive as children, we become adults that seek that in the world.
Correct.
So that wasn't very masculine of me. That was what I would now say wounded masculine. And I'll leave it there.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. There's a couple of things I'd love to contribute to what you're saying. And it's interesting because today even I was working with a woman who we opened up that space of the wounded child chasing
Mm,
chasing what was missed. And of course, as I'm sure in your work, doing a massive reframe around actually touching that place for her that was like that child was very intuitive, and actually some of the behavior of her childhood was actually such a heart-driven expression of her that has now also been named and made a problem.
mm,
All right.
mm.
So if we take this aspect, which is paralleling with another person who is recognizing um, qualities in themselves within their child and what it looks like to have the freedom of that
Mm.
that they felt that they have never had,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
And
that is a very unsurprising byproduct of my parenting of my two children because I was able to look at that with like,
mm,
wow, like isn't it tragic but beautiful how all that which I didn't have, I am now abundantly providing. Like what a gift. All right. So can I if I love who I am now, can I really hate what got me here? Is something I've had to sit with.
love it.
But then secondly to that is I didn't realize I then had to go through secondary grief. I
Mm,
was I was feeling emotions in my body that I didn't really understand, and it was grief because I didn't realize what I didn't have. It was a bizarre thing to rationalize as an adult, and it really took me some time to see with a different perspective. It's like, wow, I am every age I have ever been, and there's a young part of me right now that is feeling grief for the parenting that I'm providing
mhm.
because I can see what I didn't know I didn't have, and like, wow, like that
Totally.
was a big part of my kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
coming back to wholeness and integration.
Yes, and because you don't know what you don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And the other thing that as you were speaking that really spoke to me as well. I spent many years working as a kinesiologist,
Yeah.
and how many times I heard the phrase, "Oh my God, I just feel so much better. I do not know what just happened and what you've done.
Mm,
I already feel so much better."
mm,
And that still happens today. But when you were talking, you mentioned that people feel like they just felt better. And sometimes, as we've become so clever, right, and so
mm,
informed in our worlds these days, that I think we forget the power and the strength of something as simple as like, I just feel better, right? And that, again, because we know more now, we know that
mm.
that betterness, the stability of that betterness and the possibility of the stability of that betterness lies in here, right?
Yeah,
Not up in
yeah,
here in the head. It lies in a in a heart realization and in a heart journey, whether it's conscious or unconscious or a mixture of those things. And but the simplicity, sometimes I know in my own coaching and mentoring, I've gone to myself, okay, let's just bring it back to some simplicity here. We can be
mm,
very clever, we can be very this, we can be very that. But that experience of just feeling better, do we know how
mm.
energizing and appreciate how energizing that is and what momentum is available for people who are choosing to live a better life for themselves? And what
Yeah,
happens when you just feel better,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
so, and there are, many ways to um, stimulate that experience within yourself. But I think that it's my personal opinion that it always has a connection to heart and it
yeah,
always has a connection to possibilities. Because if our world gets too small, if there is no other possibility, man, we've all been there, right? That feels pretty crappy. I'm stuck with this.
yeah. I love one-liners, and there was a line I think in Johann Hari's book Lost Connections. It says, "Without hope, your present pain feels permanent."
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So to pick up the story, I was a coach. I was labeled a mindset coach, but I was working with love, right? So I was a little bit different. I hadn't quite found the words for it yet. And I was working with this knowingness that there was something deeper than mind. I think the Western world has put mind on a pedestal, right?
Agreed.
We're obsessed. Instagram is full of obsession around discipline. 100% value discipline, right? But discipline, if followed down the thread without anything imbuing it, can lead to what I call the penguins of Madagascar moment, right? There's a film, Madagascar, where the penguins they get this to this end destination that they've been seeking, and then they look around and go, "Well, this sucks."
Yeah.
And that for me is a metaphor of what happens if we solely live from the mind. We
Love it.
do all the things we think we should do, we achieve, we get the job, the money, the bank, the
Mhm.
house, the cars, the children. And that was me. I wife since I was, 15, so wonderful wife, two children, great job, the two cars,
Mhm.
and I was miserable. I
Yep.
remember going to Disneyland, happiest place on the planet, feeling miserable. And that was the wonderful law of contrast that came into life for me, because it made me realize that wherever you go, there you are. And not even the happiest place on the planet, Disney World, could make me feel any better, because I was living out of alignment with my truth. I had an internal mechanism that I didn't really know, but I was becoming more familiar with, that just says you're not being true, you're not living true. And that's because I was going to the world seeking that which something I thought I did not have,
Correct.
which was my greatest gift. I hated it at the time. Rather have not gone for it. But it pointed me exactly, perfectly by design, to healing that which I needed to heal, to come back into remembrance that, hey, Ryan, you lack nothing. You have all that you need. You got gifts and skills and talents that they're meant to be brought into the service of other people, but from freedom, not from scarcity. And
Correct.
that's what I now talk about, which is about coming, not mindset, but heart set.
Mhm.
coming into this alignment with who I truly am, what I really care about, what gifts and skills and talents I have that are not meant for me. They're meant to be brought through me. That's the reward. It's nice to use them, but in
Mhm.
service of the whole, not needing anything in return, and just getting to revel in the abundance of this wonderful life. And that's kind of what I do now is helping people back into this state of heart set. And then guess what? This isn't about being heart only, it's about a balance, heart, then mind. I,
Totally.
I wrote this model on my whiteboard 5 years ago. I thought it was a genius, right? It was heart in the middle, then mind, then skill set, and then community. I thought, brilliant, this is my model. Connect with your heart set, lead, and then bring your mindset. And then I am on this faith journey and I read this Bible scripture that says, love your God with all your heart or your mind or your soul, your strength, and go love your neighbor. I was like, maybe this isn't my model, which is great, right? There's some ancient wisdom in this stuff, but I think we have to come to this sense of knowing who we truly are, which is heart set, so that our mindset can achieve great things
Totally.
and use it for what it is, which is strategic, logical, rational, planning. It's just not supposed to lead the way. It's supposed to be the servant to the heart, not the master.
My way of saying exactly that is that may also resonate with people is the mind has been given the position as chief executive officer when it's
Yes.
actually a general manager.
Yes.
Now we all realize we've all been given tasks that we have a sense are beyond our capacities, and we, in inverted commas, ourselves, right? We freak out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the brain or the mind, which are two different things, but the brain is like always in tension then if you give it the leading role. It's always under tension. It's always under
Mm,
an enormous amount of pressure. So my analogy is it's the general manager, our heart space, our infinitely connected to things that are way greater than just this experience and just what we're thinking. That space, that infinite possibility of that, that's our chief executive officer. All right, that's our CEO.
mm,
And organizations like HeartMath, have done lots of
yeah.
beautiful research. It's not uncommon knowledge that there's more messages coming from the heart
Mm,
to the brain than the brain to the heart. And so, in that allowance of that capacity, exactly what you're saying, your whole world, your whole perspective begins to change. And that's where the I think the leadership aspect becomes a
mm,
very different experience. So and the logic, well, the other way that I kind of say this is intuition and logic are not enemies, right?
mm,
It's
mhm.
just that most people have them around the wrong way. So in what we receive through the heart center, that intuitive
Yes.
bit or that inner guidance or that thing that won't go away,
Mm,
that has a whole lot of logic behind it, right? Like once you go yes to that, the logic shows itself. And there could be,
yeah.
there's bumps on the road for sure. Like, but what most people do, and it's torturing, like it is literally, I think, like torture.
Yeah.
They try and use the logic to find the intuition, which is what you were talking about before, in terms of you had all that, like ticked all the boxes, right? Logically, I'm supposed to have two cars. There's this happening. There's this happening. I did the same thing. And then you go, well, actually, my experience was everything fell apart in about a period of
Mm,
about 4 months. Everything just dropped
mm.
out of my world. Um, and I call it a universal wedgie.
Yeah, yeah. That's a loving way of looking at it. But there is humor to soul, isn't it? And I think, the what we're talking about is remembering who we truly are. And our minds are filtered through a belief structure and a belief system that sometimes we didn't put there. Sometimes it's informed by society and culture. Sometimes it's informed by our formative years. But what we don't what I certainly didn't realize is that what was I viewing life through?
Right.
And that is the mind, right? So there's a incredibly poetic quote from David Hawkins, who wrote Power versus Force, which basically says that the mind has an inherent defect in that it is a tool for perception.
Mm.
And in perceiving, it creates a pseudo reality of duality. It's a mouthful, right? But what I took from that quote is that I am observing life through the lens of my mind, and that mind has almost like glasses over the front of it,
Filter.
and
Mm.
yeah, it's a filter, and those filters are our programs, our perspectives, right?
Mm.
So we're never really looking at things through the truth of the truth of the truth. We're looking at it through our perspective on that truth,
Correct.
which is where our mind gets to discern doubt and all sorts of things in between.
Mm.
Whereas the soul's above that. The soul's free of that. The soul knows, right? So when we have that deep intuition knowing, that's our soul speaking. The mind feels a bit more like doubt and confusion and lack of clarity. So even just getting to that level of discernment for me was just like, oh wow, I can start separating that which is, a clearer sense of who I am versus that's just
Mhm.
what I've led to believe about oneself. And
Totally.
then if you're brave enough to pick up that thread, well, what put that there? And then I look back at it, this idea of we're talking about the masculine journey, right? There's an archetypal masculine journey that I've been learning over the years. And if you don't go through certain phases, it has long term it's almost like a seed that's planted that creates a different type of fruit, right?
Hmm. Yep.
And the archetypal journey for the masculine that I've learned is there's this phase called like the beloved son.
Yep.
You then go into the cowboy phase. Then you become a warrior, a lover, a king, and a sage. And if I reflect on my journey, that beloved son phase, which is that feeling where you are absolutely devoted upon, you feel like the beloved son.
Mm.
Well, that was cut short for me
Mm.
because parents separated when I was 6 months, step parents separated when I was 12. So there's a lot of unanswered questions for me as a beloved son at that
Mm.
point.
Mm.
And this is below the conscious. This isn't like you're
Oh,
thinking
yeah.
about it,
Yeah, yeah, no,
but there
totally.
are there
Yeah,
are
yeah.
signs. There's an important question that young boys have to address within themselves, which is, do I have what it takes? And for me, I became a young boy that took on the kingdom too soon. I skipped a lot of these phases because I became the man of the house. I
Mm-hmm.
was given the gift of the kingdom far too soon, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go through the initiation phase of what it means to be a healthy king.
Mm-hmm.
So when I start to build my kingdom, guess what? My kingdom gets built around my comfort, my happiness, because I was constantly told by a well-meaning, well-loving society of single mother kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I just want my son to be happy. Just
Yeah.
want you to be happy. Guess what? That boy becomes a man that just wants to be happy,
Mm.
becomes a self-focused. I got to
Yeah,
this journey through
interesting.
leadership where I truly
Mm.
believe that the leaders I saw at the police with my eyes, they wanted to be served. I believe in a paradigm of leadership that is about the leader wants to serve others.
Mm.
So the leader organizes his kingdom to be in service of all of those within the
Yes,
organization or the kingdom.
absolutely.
It's like the Mufasa kind of duty of the king. Like he's my archetype, man. Mufasa is my king. But many people, me included at that time, you want to organize your kingdom in service of self, which means I'm more likely to sacrifice others to serve myself than sacrifice myself in order to serve others. I represent a fundamental paradigm which in the good
Mm.
book it says no greater gift has man than to lay down his life for those that he loves.
Mm.
If you've got a kingdom serving self, you are not going to have the greatest honor, which is being willing. Not saying you have to. Luckily, we live in a safe world, and I was never willing to do that. Nor are many men that happen. So I think there are two things then really that led me to, right. One is I have a huge sense of not knowing what it means to be a man because I did you learn what it means to be a man through modeling, through observation.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have
Mm-hmm.
that visceral. Well, I did. I guess it showed me a different side of that.
Yeah,
And then that leads into the identity of I am not that, which
correct.
is my coach. He winds me up. He says, "Hey, Ryan, guess what? You don't learn what floats by studying what sinks.
Correct.
So I can't learn what it means to be a man by studying what isn't a man. So it's a great guidepost. It's a great mirror that says, okay, I'm not going to be that, but I never really, and this is why I had to rejourney. So
Mm.
I'll lead it up to the point, and I never really wanted this. I was a man of logic and reasoning. I was never going to be a man of faith because a man on a cloud, like if a man that has father issues, I certainly am not voting for a mystical father that I cannot see. I'm not going to open myself up to be abandoned and let down again. Not going to do that.
Mm.
But because I wasn't the man I needed to be for my wife, I caused issues in the home that led us to separate for a period of time. We never gave up on each other, thankfully, but she found faith in that time.
Right.
So, being the dutiful husband, I come back and I'm like, fine, I will support your faith. But I was pretty pissed because I thought there's like the kids are more important than me, and now this God guy, like, what is the crack? I feel like I've gone down the hierarchy here. I was like, here, anyway,
Wounding, wounding.
100%. I'm like, right, fine, okay, I'll suck up. Like, this is it. I'll be dutiful. And it brought me along a journey where I was observing things. I went to a church festival, right? My idea of my worst nightmare, 40,000, what I thought was going to be Ned Flanders, right? These boring Christian folk. I was like, that is not me. And honestly, I'm a people watcher, psychologist. I'm like, wow, like, what am I observing? I've never heard music like it. It's people demonstrating their faith. So it got me curious, right? It got me open-minded and curious, which I'd never, ever been. And then I go to this church. It doesn't look like a church. It's an incredible building. The music's different. The pastor leading the church happened to be my old school teacher. So he got my attention, right?
Yep.
I was like, okay, it's fine. I'll just be, it doesn't mean anything yet. It doesn't mean anything. Like, don't tell anyone. It doesn't mean anything. I'm just being a good husband. And on Father's Day 2019, the pastor said, all right, we're just going to say some nice words for Father's Day. I thought, oh, what's the worst that can happen? I'll just go up. And he said, that's it, women. If you want to put your hands out towards these men, you do that. And it was like she firebombed me in my back. My white is almost like and my whole body caught fire. Like you saying earlier, right? There was that sensation, there was that feeling. And there was a bit of healing that happened in my heart that day, Grace, that I
I
can't ever
bet.
put words to.
No, no.
And, I wouldn't describe myself as the traditional Christian. I have some interesting kind of perspectives and beliefs and Eastern philosophies.
Mm.
But one thing I am absolutely sure on is that Yeshua the Nazarene came into my heart that day
Yeah.
and healed something within me and opened up a connection with my Heavenly Father
Mm.
that has led me on a journey of being refathered in
Mm.
a way that has healed so much so goodness that, like, no, to the point where I've healed things from my own earthly father, and the possibilities continue to unfold through
Mm.
that one event. My marriage has been transformed, my work has been transformed, my family, my friendship circle,
Mhm.
not traditionally by following a traditional model of Christianity in the church, but being open to the wisdom and the guidance of the nature of God. The more
Via
I
the
walk
heart.
the
Right.
heart, the more I have the wisdom, and I'm reading the Gospel of the Essenes, the Gospel of Love and Peace by the Essenes
Mm.
group, and in it says that basically, like, when man walks earth not in harmony with the angels, he causes suffering everywhere he goes.
Mm.
And I've just been a man devoted and committed to this idea of what does it mean to be a man who walks this earth with angels, with the guidance of the angels of power, love, and wisdom, truth.
Mm.
Because I think a man that can really tap into that heart-centered nature of love, truth, wisdom, he's going to leave people better everywhere he goes, in his
Totally.
marriage, in his work, in his relationships, in his fatherhood.
Yep.
He's going to be a man that's devoted in the service of others, not in a martyrdom way, but in a way that he truly knows who he is. He's grounded in his confidence. He's not being leveraged by guilt and shame and made to feel inadequate.
Mm.
And he realizes that his greatest gift is to be a stable, supportive, loving, strong presence for those. My wife never got that for me for 10 to 15 years. She
Mm,
got a self-centered man, and she suffered. The more I'm able to delay gratification, in to
mm,
suffer and sacrifice. I've been on a fasting journey, ice bar. I've been on a real masculine healing journey. I've always had that feminine bit, I think, because I was
yeah,
raised by my mum. So I have hope for a lot of these men that are raised by single parent,
mm,
particularly mothers, because they have the heart chamber open. What
totally
they have to learn is what it means to be a true man in a sense of integrating the two.
correct.
Previous generations, they have the discipline down. They have the heart this, but they don't have the heart chamber open of
Correct.
feeling and presence. I think if we can integrate a man with the open-hearted ability to be present and loving and kind, as well as strong, stable, and level and analytical and problem solving, man,
Totally.
you got a man that's going to create an incredible environment for those that he surrounds himself with.
Absolutely. And I think that, the two, there's the realistic, realistically, there are plenty of men and women who were also parented, and because we're talking about the masculine at the moment, fathered
Yeah,
by
yeah,
distorted images of masculinity, right?
yes.
And so, I love that you're sharing your personal experience of the absence, and then we also have those people in our lives that have been experienced the distorted version of masculinity. Um, and but either of those, like if we can again take ourselves out of the problem focused paradigm and into the possibility
Mm,
focused paradigm and say, well,
mm,
yes, that was an experience. There were these things I really disliked about it, and maybe it was wrong and unfair, but like literally, if you grip those spaces or those reasons, those justifications, it's very, very difficult to change anything, nigh on
mm,
impossible, because the access ways to greater possibilities are, as you mentioned, there's a curiosity. And we call it open-mindedness, but I actually
yeah,
think it's open-heartedness and
yeah.
curiosity and the possibility of a different paradigm. And so, your experience, it was one bias, so that was the absence. And then we have the other experience of the distortion. But regardless of either of those experiences, how long are we going to um, hang on to the wrongness of those things rather than in your language it's hope. For me it's like, well, there's something way greater than
Mm,
whether it was right or whether it was wrong. There's
yeah.
actually a greater life force
Mm,
available for all of us. And it's not about being a hero of your experience, I
hmm.
don't think. I think that the hero of your experience is actually more of an egotistical position. I think the celebration and the liberation of those experiences to the heart space, to the
Yeah.
possibilities of that that was an event
Hmm.
and not a reality that we
Mm,
want to carry forward to our children or our family
mm,
members. If it was an
yeah.
event and not a reality, how many more possibilities can we allow ourselves to engage with
Mm,
in whatever form that may be, whether that be in religion, whether that be in consciousness, whether that be in, like, now there are a million and one modalities, right, to find yourself, so to speak. And, some years ago, um, I got to the position is like, does it matter how people get there? If we
yeah.
have more and more people on the planet from a heart operating truly from a heart-centered
Yeah.
position, because no two people are the same, right? So, I was raised in religion and rebelled against religion,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? And then one day I remember in Sunday school when somebody like criticized my relationship of having a man on a cloud, right? I'm thinking, you people are crazy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But in essence, each of our journeys, if we can really honor the
Mm.
uniqueness, then ultimately, as we all become more conscious and more heart-centered, we'll have the capacities to instigate the changes that create a better world for more and more and more and more and more of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that to me is also the leadership. It's like, in my world, because I come from a very energetic background and my
Mhm.
teaching is very energetic, then, there's all sorts of craziness, associated
Yeah.
with that, as there is craziness associated with Jesus and angels, and like
Yeah. Because it's
any
beyond the mind.
correct.
It's beyond the mind. And so I've often gone into a
Yeah,
bookshop and looked at the theology section. I'm like, man, these books are pointless unless you've had a heart experience. Because what's the point in arguing and debating this stuff? Like, let's all get into an experiential, you know, something that we know to be true. You
yeah.
know, again, another thing my coach kind of says is that you know that you've got your faith when you stop asking questions. You know, the question is a supposition, is that I do not know the answer. Well, something
Mm,
happened 2019. I know something happened. So I'm not asking, I'm using the books to learn more about the nature of what might have happened, not whether
mm.
something happened, and it's that
Yes.
I'm using the mind to figure that out. One of the things I'd just love to kind of share with you about that journey is, you know, the heart nature, right? And let's just use the book of Genesis as a poetic description of this. We are constantly, I think, heart centered can go one of two ways. We can either come through the lens of the heart from wholeness, love, or lack and fear. And I think sometimes we have to be able to check in and go, where am I coming to the world from, right? Because we
Yeah,
can be just so
definitely.
in the ancient scriptures it says the heart can be deceived beyond all things. We have to check, am I coming to the world through wholeness or lack? Have I been deceived? Because if I've been deceived, I'm going to go to all of my interactions
Hmm.
and this might be the ego talking, of taking things personally. Am I being judged?
Hmm.
It's through that lens of insecurity that I'm coming to the world.
Mm.
If I can get myself to the point where my heart is whole, so Psalm 23 starts with, I have all that I need, I lack nothing.
Hmm.
That for me is the characteristic of heart set.
Yep,
In this moment, I have all that I need, I lack nothing. And guess what? I then don't get pulled out of that by anything or anyone.
correct.
I come rooted and grounded, meaning that regardless of what any event happens to me externally,
Hmm.
I can be true to who I am and who I choose to be in that moment. That for me is leadership, is about,
Totally.
I, sorry, I'm full of quotes. I love them. Viktor Frankl, in his book Man's Search for Meaning, he says that between stimulus and response, there's a gap. And in that gap lies your choice, and in your choice lies your freedom. So
Very true.
between the event happening and us responding, for me, that gap is self-leadership. The more I can lead
Mhm.
myself away from my chimp response to my chosen response, I increase my capacity for freedom.
Totally.
And that comes from heart set and heart centeredness.
Hmm.
Because when I come to the world from that, I increase my capacity to go, if an event happens. So 2 years ago, I've been on this heart centered journey, and I'll talk to you about that hero bit. I think the hero bit is an interesting perspective because the soul for me is about, it is the candle in the sun, right? The soul comes into this human body to experience itself. And if it wants to experience itself as the hero because the soul is incarnate now, then I think that's, it can be part of the soul's expression rather than the I need to be. But
Yeah.
2023, there was a, let's just say, a spiritual attack on my marriage. And that enabled me to demonstrate the hero within me, shall we say,
Sure.
or the aspect of who I've become in a way that I wouldn't have been able to unless that contrast and opposition hadn't been present.
Absolutely.
So it's an incredible design, this
Oh.
universe, this law of contrast, if we can only see it as such, this mirror system that we play within, because egotistically, I'd rather this thing hadn't happened, but what
Mm.
it gave me was the greatest gift of an experiencing myself as the spiritual warrior that I had become.
Yes. And I would love to add a bit to that warriorship because this came through the other day and it was particularly relevant to one of my clients. A warrior cannot be provoked as they have seen the truth.
Hmm. Yes. Well, the warrior that really resonates with me over the last
Mm,
12 months is Archangel Michael.
mm,
Now, he is the seen as the um, protector of the innocent and the vanquisher of evil. And the one of the ways that I felt that presence, and here's the thing, you've got in this body right now, Ryan Hartley, as you experience him, he has this soul growth and remembrance of who he is and this emergence of this heart-centered spiritual leader warrior. But
mhm,
you've also got this 12-year-old who's got this core wound of abandonment.
mm.
So this event 2 years ago has the opportunity to speak to both.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's never a
And
one-sided, one-directed conversation.
right, they're both there, they're both present, but luckily I'd become a man capable of surrender. I was never a man that would have surrendered. I would boneheadedly bang my head on the wall until it opened.
Mm,
And I'd cause myself pain and suffering until it did, and
mm.
other people until it did.
Yeah.
Surrender is not weakness. Surrender for me is wisdom, because I had to come to the very vulnerable feeling of being in lack of control. My
Yes,
ego wants control. My
totally.
ego wants certainty. And when I act out of that need, I control shit. And people don't like being controlled because that's the
Mm,
antithesis of love, which is freedom. If we
totally.
believe in the story, for God so loved,
Mm,
it gave us all absolute freedom to forget that God's a thing, to choose to do it. That is the ultimate expression of love,
yeah.
is freedom. And somehow, by the grace of God and by the guidance of the great teacher Yeshua, I was able to embody the spirit of Christ love in this occasion, and I wasn't provoked. I wasn't pulled out into my ego
Correct.
state. And I
Totally.
stayed true to who I wanted to be in that moment, was to love her through the eyes of God.
Totally.
And guess what, Grace? It changed everything. And I have no idea how I was able to do it other than by the grace of God, by the spirit of Jeshua's teachings. I can
Totally.
only, and when stuff like that happens, I'm like, wow, I am yielding my heart. I want to see what's possible when I leave my life, my family, my business, and my children, all
Mhm.
when I yield my heart to
Yeah.
this higher power. May I be graced with the words of wisdom, because God knows I need it. Like,
Don't
I'm
we
trying to
all
father
sometimes,
these two
right?
children without, without this playbook. Like running, I need,
Totally.
and I'm surrendered now more than I've ever been, and I feel more powerful, not weak.
Correct. Absolutely. And in my kind of terminology, in my way of saying where we're paralleling there is so courage is from the heart, right? Courage, the source of love.
Okay.
Do you have the courage, or do I have the courage to be led by possibilities rather than
Hmm.
judgment?
Hmm.
And the moment where, we get into that, the abandoned or the rejected or whatever the wounding pattern is, that space, that's the space that I choose. Do I have the courage here to be led by possibilities rather than judgment?
Because
Because
the mind confuses us and says, "Hey, I'll take your possibility and I'll give you a probability."
yes, and they're completely different things.
Mm,
Completely different things, because the probability from my perspective is like the mind's calculation of a
yeah,
possibility, which will confine take it to a destination which is a limitation in that original expansion phase.
yeah.
And And I think it's such a, I mean, you're beautifully expressing the freedom that you have in your life. And I don't know, I have never met anybody who wouldn't like more freedom in their life.
Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
right. And
Mm,
so, and yet we have a lot of definition and a lot of rules around
mm,
what makes that happen,
mm,
as opposed to what you're talking about and what I'm talking about is the availability to something that is way bigger. And like if you are led by the possibility, you're not in a definition, you're actually an available stream for something way greater than you could have ever imagined,
mm.
right? Like where
Yeah.
on earth did that come from?
And if we always look back, there's always moments of that along the way.
Oh, always. In
Always.
and in so many different ways. You know, I was
Yeah.
fortunate enough to go to spend a couple of years sailing on a 52-foot ketch. And we got caught in a really scary storm, like
Mm,
seriously scaring. I didn't know waves could be that big, and they were right there. And I was on 50, we were on 52 tiny little in a major shipping channel. So any of the big ships were not going to see us because we're in the middle of these, right? And I'm on the helm, and the people I love are strapped to the boat, going to the sails to get them down and to throw anchors over to slow us down so we don't surf down these waves, right? I do not know how I found that solidity to be on that helm and to be like so present. And
mm.
I won't say I wasn't scared, but my focus was, oh my God, so
Yeah.
there. I was not a blithering mess. I was there. And you know that space helps you find places you never knew. I never knew that existed. I
Yeah.
never knew that existed. It was the most terrifying thing, one of the most terrifying things that has ever occurred in my life, and
Yeah.
one of the greatest things that has ever occurred in my life.
Oh, yeah, yes. And this is, I think, what the work of, is it Mihai Csikszentmihalyi does the research on flow states.
Yep.
I think flow states is being in that divine moment. I think one of the things he talks about flow states is there has to be a challenge. We have to at the peak of our challenge. And I've interviewed a number of people, particularly from sporting world, where they seem to achieve these flow states more often, particularly
Mm,
Formula One. I like Formula One. And Michael
mm,
Schumacher always used to say that if I have to think about my braking spot, I've lost 10% performance. So there's something about being intimately present
mm,
that gains us access to this divine state of being. And there's flow, there's pressure, but there's also heart coherence. You're talking about the heart math work.
mm,
That what that work really showed me is I think our next expansion and evolution as human beings. It looks like if we subscribe to the theory of evolution, that we've gone from a cellular organism to then cellular, then to an organ, then to a body. People think we've stopped evolving at the end of the body. I think the next phase of evolution is when all of those bodies become the body. Whether that be described in the Bhagavad philosophy of the spider web, or whether it be the body of Christ, whatever it is, there's this, I believe, understanding that all things are one thing. And when they realize that and come together and work in harmony, that's when we gain access to that divine state. So the
yeah.
heart math stuff showed me that even things like the All Blacks, when they do the haka, that's a
Mm,
competitive advantage
mhm.
because by doing that ritual, they are gaining heart coherence
Yep.
as a group of 15 men,
Yep.
which is a competitive advantage because you gain access to a connection beyond the mind that is intuitive, that is flow. They become one.
Yep.
That is our next phase of evolution. In
Okay.
England, we've got a stadium called Anfield. Liverpool Football Club sing "You'll Never Walk Alone" at the start, and then that, my friends,
Mhm.
you can take the most spiritually unaware man, put him in that, and it'll move him to tears.
Yep.
Why? Because there's some truth about our next evolution, which is about coming together as one. That's very tribal. They're all wearing red shirts and singing the same song, but
Yep.
it's an element of truth, which is that this is who we are. We are one body. We are one web. And when we come to remember and realize that, That's when the teachings of Yeshua really hold its significance because it says, I and the Father are one, and whatever you do to
Mm.
the least of these, you do to me. Meaning, go
Hmm.
love your neighbor because he
Correct.
is you. You are one,
Totally.
right?
Totally.
It's very highly practical.
Very highly practical. Life is very highly practical. It's not, like in many ways, it's kind of not rocket science, truly. When you have that capacity to see the whole,
Yes. Fundamental paradigm shift compared to
fund,
the culture that says, come and get stuff that's outside of you. That's
correct,
the Apple story. Hey, guess what? If you just have this thing outside of you,
you will be okay. Mm.
so the greatest act of defiance I am trying to implement with my 10-year-old daughter is having her understand where the source of beauty is. I ask her every day, Brooke, where are you beautiful? She's like, in
Mm.
my heart. Brilliant. Now you're not going to be subject to all of the marketing that's leaving you feeling inadequate without all the beauty products.
Yeah,
Brilliant. Like,
totally.
how do I equip my kids with a sense of self in a way that keeps them grounded in the essence of who they truly are, not
Totally.
what the world would like to sell them?
Exactly. And in choice around, because, and that's again, coming back to what you were saying, if we're making choices from the wounded
Mm.
scarcity, lack, then we will continue to buy beauty products to
Yeah,
fix what we're not.
yeah,
And again, that is that energy that you referred to earlier around um, what I'm not. I don't want that. I don't want
yeah, yeah,
that. And
yeah,
thinking that
yeah,
you're creating a life.
yeah.
And so, how, what a different world you are creating because there is a filling up of that cup, right? The eternal cup that can only really be filled by love.
Mm.
And when I talk about love, I'm talking about the life force of love more than
Yes.
the emotional love. They're not independent, of course,
Hmm.
but it's the life force of love, the magic that makes the sperm and the egg when that comes together begin creation. Like what? Like seriously, or like what? Right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
when I
yeah.
speak of love, like what is it that creates a bloom of a flower? Like what's that? What's that?
Yes.
Right? What's oh my God.
Life force energy. There's a bit of graffiti in a nearby town. It's quite a spiritual hippie town, and it's the most profound bit of graffiti I've ever read, which just says, "Love is metaphysical gravity."
Oh,
It's
that
the
is so good.
very it's
Oh,
good,
that
isn't
is
it? It's
so
amazing.
good. Yeah,
Love
totally.
is metaphysical gravity. An atom plus an atom in one plus one equals three. That is love, right?
Yeah,
We see that at an adult level where you take about creation, but that can be just us partnering with our heart. When we partner with our heart's desire, we create something new in the world, something that wasn't present. That's heart work, right? This podcast came out of a devotion to your heart. When you
totally.
partner with that, something new into the world comes. That is the essence of love. If love is expansion, fear is destruction.
Mm,
And there's a bit of both, right? We live in
totally.
cycles and we're capable
Totally.
of both. And when we rationalize that or when we integrate
Mm,
both our capabilities to both create and destroy, the choice then becomes, well, what would we like to do?
correct.
What would we like to do? Sometimes things need pruning and sometimes things need nurturing.
Totally.
Either
And then
way,
it's the
they're creating
freedom.
fruit,
Yeah, and it's the freedom, right? And it's the
right?
awareness that the destruction is as equally value as the
Yeah.
nurturing, right?
And you have the freedom. I love you so much, Grace, that you can be free to be destructive and a destroyer. Why
Correct.
is that so? Why would God allow that? Because it allows me to experience myself as the warrior.
There you go.
What an act of love, right? You get to experience yourself as the
Totally.
destroyer. I
Yep.
get to experience myself as the warrior. And at a macro level, all is well.
All is well.
And a micro level, we're like, holy shit, what's happening? What's going on? Zoom
You
out.
hang on to the wheel like a crazy chick.
Yeah. And this is why I get real hope because and
Yeah,
this is why this is faith, but a deep knowing. The more chaotic the world gets on the news, I have to have faith that there is an equal force that is opposite that is just not seen. That there is an
correct.
uprising of love, that is an uprising of heart-centeredness, that there is a spiritual awakening happening in people that's just not being televised.
Correct.
Because I have faith that the universe is in perfect harmony and balance. And if there's more of this, then there must be more of this.
Correct. And it
That's
is
just
that, Yeah, totally. And it is the harmonization, right, that we're in. So, from a consciousness perspective and from an energetic perspective, we used to talk about
Yeah.
balance and balancing things. And I'm not going to get too technical, but it's very polar, right? It keeps things in
Yeah.
separation. Harmonization is a completely different experience. And
Yeah.
it's a harmonization of the heart and the destructiveness and the
Mm.
creation that is an allowance that is such a creative force of possibility
Mm.
into this incredible, incredible world.
It's
And
funny, isn't it, how we use so much musical analogies like harmony and
mm,
frequency and resonance
totally
and here's the one I really love is that when we come into harmony with a higher frequency, we will create a symphony.
correct. Totally. Everything goes
How's
off,
that?
right?
Yeah.
Everything
So
goes
that's
off.
what that's the call to action. And I
Yeah.
and I understand, and I don't
Mm,
understand this at a deep level, so I can't share more, but I understand that we're at a precipice right now of a fundamental shift in our harmonic
correct.
resonance at an
Totally.
earth level. There
Totally.
is talk about we're in the phase of a new earth, right?
Mm.
Go do some research. I can't educate on that level with any level
I
of
actually can,
good.
but
So
we'll do that another day.
brilliant. You and I are here to usher people into the new earth,
Yeah.
but what I'll say is there'll be no middle ground.
No. No.
We're being drawn into the extremities and the polarities, and there's so many scriptures that talk about this at the end times.
Mm,
There'll be, whether it's separating the wheat from the chaff, whether it be based on
mm,
your deeds,
mm.
whatever will happen is whenever this shift is taking place, it will be based on your level of consciousness, your frequency. It won't be judgmental, it will just be factual. And that's what people
Correct.
don't like, right? I just believe in Jesus and I'm saved. No, it's about your deeds, it's about your state of your heart, it's about the loving frequency you hold in your body
Yeah.
that will separate. It's no judgment. The wrath of God would. It's not a wrath. That's a human ego projection. It's just here's your frequency. You sit there. Here's your frequency. You sit there.
If you turn left, you go that way. If you turn right, you go that way. That's simple.
That's simple, and yet that's what it means to fear God. Not out of ego fear, but out of wow. I am the byproduct of my frequency, how I
Hmm.
see the world, how I live, how I show up.
Hmm.
Am I bringing that in the
Hmm.
service of others? How am I treating the least of these? So this is a moment and a real call
Totally.
to action, Grace. Really, choose
Yeah,
your side. Do you want to be a son of the light or a son of the dark?
correct.
Because that's the choice. There is no middle ground. And for anyone listening to this already, you've already chosen. It's
Yeah,
time to step. You've already chosen. You're not listening to this
totally.
podcast if you don't believe in the power of the light. May this be an encouragement so that you bring more of that goodness to the world in the service of other people. If you don't know already what you have within you, go find it because there's someone in the world who needs it.
Correct. And you are listening to two people who are more than happy to facilitate that choice and bring that to light with people. And Ryan, as we bring this episode to a close, do you have an invitation for people to meet with you and to get in contact with you to follow through? Like if I'm what I'm saying to our listeners right now is if Ryan is resonating with you, follow through, please. Follow through. And I will list all of the ways that you
Thank
can
you.
contact Ryan in the notes. And I would highly encourage people that you have a variety, from what I understand, a variety of ways that people can work with you. And you did mention that you're happy to have a quick chat with people as well. So I'll put all the links to be able to do that in the show notes. And like, is there anything that you would like to leave as a further, as you say, call to action from today's discussion, Ryan?
Yeah, thank you, Grace. Thank you for your heart service, what I would call heart work. It's that bringing of your devotion, that disciplined devotion into the service of others. It would be easier not to. And just thank you for your service and thank you for having me. Yeah, if people resonate with what I'm saying,
Mm.
my wife has always said that I've been making shit up as long as I go along. Like, my heart center framework is that it is something that I feel has been born out of the wisdom given to me So if heart set resonates with people and you want to come learn about what your heart
Mm,
set might be and what it is, then yeah, you use the link in the show notes and come and spend 30 minutes with me. I'd love to kind of talk people through that concept and
mm,
just spark a new possibility within, because this is the thing I really leave with people. When I was at the police, we used to teach the Locard's exchange principle.
mm,
That is the idea that every contact leaves a trace. Now, we
mm,
used to teach our detectives that because it was a very scientific kind of
mm,
where has the offender left of themselves at the scene. But I sat back and thought we need to teach our leaders this concept because
mm,
every contact leaves a trace. Now,
mm,
that phrase for me, Grace, is called heartprint.
mm,
Every human being will leave a heartprint.
mhm. Love it.
Better, worse, hopeful, joyful, despair, whatever it might be.
Mm,
What we have to do as heart centered leaders is to be mindful, conscious, and inspired by the possibilities that we can create in the lives of other people.
totally.
Who knows what this conversation will spark in the lives of other people? And I hope that we live long enough to see one of those waves, maybe not as big as what you've seen, but one of those waves come crashing back our way and go, wow, that is what was made possible as a result of just this courageous hard work, this
Mm,
sharing. When I do this thing courageously and vulnerably with all of my love and passion, that good comes. I trust and have faith that when I plant good seeds, good fruit will follow.
correct.
So
That's a,
thank you for your service. Thank you for having me.
oh,
May we
thank you.
continue to expand our heartprints.
Yeah, totally. Ryan, thank you so, so much for your beautiful sharings. I really appreciate it. Bye bye, everybody. See you next episode.
Take
Bye
care,
for now.
everyone.
Bye.